Andy Derman, EVP for the Global Business Unit here at Lightcast, and I'm joined by Eleanor McGreeny, our Head of Global Research. So welcome to Lightcast. We're on a mission to help the world understand what's happening in the labour market so that organisations and individuals can make better, more informed decisions that relate to education, careers and employment. So in this video, we're going to really dive into the building blocks of the labour market and start to think about what skills employers are seeking. So Eleanor, if you could introduce us to the work we've done to dive in and look at a couple of different job roles and really start to think about what skills are driving that. And I think for this, we're heading off to Spain.
We are going to Spain indeed, Andy. So today what we are looking at is at the skills that are being demanded the most by employer in different roles and how this varies in different roles and over time and what this means in terms of insights on the labor market. And to do so, we are in Spain looking at demand for jobs for data scientists, marketing professionals, and industrial engineers. So what we're going to look at first is what are the 10 skills most in demand in terms of technical specialized skills for each of these roles. And the first thing that we see here is that there is a lot of different, as one would expect, in between the three different roles. On one end, we have data scientists, for which programming languages like Python and Java, agile methodology are all particularly important skills. The marketing professionals instead have very marketing-related skills that they are high in demand for, so things like marketing, digital marketing, pay-per-click, and instead the industrial engineers have a completely different skill set yet again, and this time is more focused on things like lean manufacturing, industrial engineering, fabrication, so things about making and doing things, as well as project management. So there's quite a bit of difference between the three different roles.
Yeah, great stuff. So that helps us understand a bit more in kind of, I suppose, employer terms. When we talk about different roles, what does that actually mean? What sort of skills are employers seeking? And what you've done there is kind of present a bit of a snapshot and showed how across different roles there's quite different skill profiles needed. But of course, skills and the labour market in generally is moving at quite a pace these days. And it's really at that skill level and why we illuminate that skill level that really gives us a clue, not just how roles are different against each other, but actually how the same role might be evolving in the labour market in terms of what employers are seeking. So your next kind of deep dive is really picking out your data scientists, isn't it, in Spain, and actually starting to think about, well, how has that actually changed over time?
Yes, and actually on that point, there's some interesting findings on these slides that then are also applicable more widely to the other groups that we have looked at, because one of the things that we talked a bit about the differences between the skills that were most in demand between the three different occupations. But one of the things that the three of them had in common was a high level of digitalization among the skills that were most in demand in the three different roles. So then when we dig deep into the data scientist role and we look at what has changed over time, we get something that's really interesting in the context of digital. So when we look at the top 10 fastest growing skills for data scientists in Spain, what we see is that apart from full stack development, that is a proper kind of software digital related kind of skills, all the other skills that are growing most in demand are around agile coaching, authentication. We get things like customer service, marketing. So we get skills that are not just digital, but also skills that are more general in terms of what they cover and how they kind of show how over the past 3 years, data scientist is now, as an occupation, is now expanding and moving beyond the data part of the occupation overall, but is also expanding to cover and link with other occupations and other roles, like in marketing and customer service. Whereas instead, when we then look at the skills that are fastest declining among data scientists in Spain, what we see is a number of specific software packages and tools like Spring Framework, like cascading style sheets, Java platforms, and so on and so forth. And this is interesting in light of what we were seeing earlier, because it's almost like it's saying the specific softwares are changing quite quickly, but the linkages between data scientists, digital skills, and the broader labor markets are becoming more and more important.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. And so we can really start to chart an evolution of a role, certainly from its early days, where it was very specific and has evolved, in this example, the data scientists, and to some extent thinking about the broader foundational skills that are helping to apply data science into a whole range of different environments now, and that perhaps actually the technology end of it might be the slightly more disposable piece of the jigsaw puzzle, the piece that's changing fastest. So important to think about in terms of thinking about talent and talent development, to both meet the short-term needs of the labor market, but also build the foundations upon which they can be evolved and developed. And certainly, it looks like in this example, that kind of development language, technical language, is the piece that's changing fastest, while the foundations of the role are evolving. So it gives us a very different view of what we mean by a data scientist, doesn't it? So keeping the theme of data scientists going on, one of the things that we've built in terms of, and the reasons behind the skills foundation in the Lightcast data, is to be able to provide context and not only dive deeply into a given role within a particular labor market setting, but actually start to think about what we can learn about demand across different geographies as well. So you've done a bit of a further analysis, haven't you, to look at data scientists both within Spain and then beyond, which is one of the great benefits of using a uniform taxonomy and language for skills, for occupations, within our data set, our global data set.
Yes, so starting in Spain is all well and good to know that there are a certain amount of data scientists in Spain, but I think what we really want to know is where in Spain are these data scientist roles being required. And one of the interesting things that we see here is that for 40%, almost 40% of all data scientist roles in the Spanish labor market are being advertised in Madrid. And then a further 23% are advertised in Barcelona. Now, Madrid and Barcelona are the two biggest, most popular labor markets for data scientists. Is not perhaps super surprising in the sense they are the two centers of economic activity in the country. So it's good to see them popping up as the top two markets. But what's interesting here is that when we look at the number of job postings overall, the distribution of these job postings across the country showed a much more even distribution between Madrid and Barcelona, with 20 to 25% of jobs each, whereas here we see a very strong skew towards the Madrid labor market. So these insights for data scientists within Spain play out differently to other insights from job postings overall. And then, yes, as you said, Andy, it's also very interesting to look at where else in Europe we can find the employers looking for data scientist roles. And here what we see is that Berlin and Munich in particular are the two city markets where we find the largest number of job postings asking for data scientists. And again, what's interesting here is that when we look at job postings volume overall across the different European countries that we look at, normally London is the one with the largest number of job postings, followed by Paris. But when it comes to data scientists, instead, it is the German cities, so Berlin and Munich, that come up on top.
Fascinating. And Frankfurt, Hamburg, Bremen also, and Stuttgart following through in that top list. So a very obvious trend jumping out to us there. And thanks for sharing these insights. And I think just to summarize then, of course, by being able to really dive into the granularity of what skills are driving employer demand within different segments of the labor market, can really start to illuminate what skills are needed from an education provider perspective. What are the key skills that employers are needing, and how have they been changing, and how might that evolve your education offer, and also ongoing upskilling offers into that community within your region. But also thinking from a talent perspective, if we're looking at where the opportunities and the hotspots might be in terms of identifying job roles, then using demand as an indicator could help us work out where those markets are, or certainly where the demand is, and how that demand might be evolving as well. And so as a job seeker, of course, knowing that there's massive demand for your skill sets in certain places here, the example here, obviously, Germany, should be encouraging to think about where the opportunities might lie as well. So diving into that kind of detail not only provides a degree of grounding in reality as to what's needed to meet that demand, but actually understand where those opportunities are that are presented by that as well. So thank you very much, Eleanor. I appreciate it.
Thank you.